This is Belarus, the heart of Europe. The quiet streets and hazy morning air appear peaceful on the surface. But its history has always foreshadowed fierce storms. The cries for democracy that filled these streets in 2020 have somewhat subsided. But the fight for freedom has never ended. That passion still lives on. Alexander Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus with an iron fist since 1994, has held power for over 30 years, suppressing the people's freedom. His rise was a symbol of dictatorship. The voices of journalists who shouted for truth were forcibly silenced. Closed offices and photos of detained reporters clearly show how press freedom vanished in Belarus. In 2020, students and citizens, angered by manipulated presidential election results, finally poured into the streets, waving red and white flags. They shouted for freedom and democracy. Sviatlana Tikhanovskaya, forced into exile after denouncing election fraud, became a strong voice of hope for the Belarusian democracy movement. Shouting for the future, she is a symbol of freedom. Minsk's squares transformed into grand schools for learning and practicing democracy. Hunger strikes, fervent speeches, and songs yearning for freedom echoed, and the protest fervor never cooled. However, the government did not tolerate the fervor for democracy. Military forces secretly moved into the streets, escalating tensions, and fear began to seep into the silence. It was the shadow of an impending tragedy. In August, peaceful protesters faced the ruthless crackdown by riot police. Tear gas covered the square, and a night of massacre, stained with citizens' screams and bloody clashes, began. Hundreds of citizens and activists were detained, and countless others went missing or were tortured. Prisons were filled with political prisoners, and Belarus was trapped in the dark shadow of human rights suppression. Authorities used all means to silence the people. Internet was cut off, communication was controlled, and censorship became routine. An era of darkness arrived where freedom of expression disappeared. The international community strongly condemned Belarus' human rights abuses and election fraud. Western countries like the EU and UK imposed strong sanctions on the Lukashenko regime and key businesses, initiating pressure. Over 1,200 political prisoners, including Nobel Peace Prize laureate Ales Bialyatsky, remain imprisoned, while some have recently been released. True democratic change is still far too lacking. Belarusian democracy activists in exile continue to voice for Belarus freedom in the European Parliament and on the international stage. Their cries echo across borders. Despite physical constraints, Belarus' young generation continues their resistance in digital spaces. They connect hopes for democracy through online hashtags, virtual bans, and music activism. Even in suffering, the people of Belarus do not lose hope. Especially young Belarusians dream of democracy peacefully, and their eyes hold a burning desire for freedom. Over 1,200 political prisoners in jail. Ales Bialyatsky, Serhei Tikhanovsky, Ihar Karnier. These are names we must not forget and must remember. We stand with them. Red, white, red. This flag, symbolizing freedom, though it may fiercely flutter and shake in the wind, carries the unwavering will of Belarus democracy. History must not repeat. The tragedy of Belarus is a warning to democracies worldwide. Only by remembering, showing solidarity, and acting can true freedom be achieved. This material was produced based on public information from international media and human rights organizations. We stand in solidarity with all those who yearn for freedom worldwide.